Hello to you, Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, is the joy of being a live stream, coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And if you're joining us anywhere other than twitch.tv/deep mindfulness, come on over and join us. We'd love to have you here. Folks, where are you coming from? Where are we finding you? Let's see here. Where's my chat? There we go. Nope. Hello, chat. Welcome, chat. Folks, where are you coming from? What's going on? What's new? How's life? But seriously, where's the chat window? I think the chat has crashed. Weird. Can't see the window. Okay. So folks, yeah, let me know. Where are you coming from? Okay, first I gotta crash this window. Then I gotta restart the chat. Here we go. We got Rory coming from Kingston, Ontario. Welcome, buddy. Nice to see you here. There we go. There's that chat window. That's what I was waiting for. Let's see here. Yeah, where are folks coming from? Where are we finding you today? Very excited about today, folks. Today is Friday. I can't believe today's Friday. I feel like I was just thinking to myself, man, this week is just starting. So we're excited here. We're going to be doing a little meditation action. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's pretty fun. We're joined here by our co-host, Jean. Jean was our superstar helper. Big gold star for Jean, helping out on the last stream, so we appreciate that very much. Jean is our co-host this stream, so buckle up, because Jean's a wild when in shotgun position. So yeah, what's going on, folks? What's new? What's happening? And in particular, that's a noisy response from my microphone. That's what you want from a microphone, is to make all sorts of loud noises when you try to move it. Where are you coming from? Where are folks joining us from on this planet of ours? What on earth is the exact delay? Okay, hello from Toronto, Little Liner. Nice to see you here. Good to see you. What else? Where else are folks joining us from? Oh, what was the thing that I wanted to mention? Okay, so folks, we have our playbacks on our second YouTube channel. If you ever watch our playbacks, or if you're watching the playback now, and you notice something funny, in particular you notice that the time codes or something like that is off or anything like that, just leave a comment and we'll fix it. We're doing our best, and actually each time you do that, it's sort of exponentially fixing things, because we figure out why did that go wrong in the first place. We're trying to have our team get things a little bit more automated, so the time codes and, oh my god. Okay. Here's a promise I have to make to folks, that I will ride my bike to the electronics store donning my little hazmat suit and everything to go buy the wire that would make this thing be less likely to glitch every time. Not even every time something happens, it just glitches out every time. So, yeah, awesome. Okay, what do we got here? From Kansas, lovely, beautiful silver hair. From Kansas, welcome. Nice to see you here. We got, I think that's John. Oh, it's Jean. Oh, Jean, I don't know if you're here. You came in a little late. You're also our co-host here. I don't know if you noticed that. A little out of focus. That's the problem with the bokeh effect, where things that are, it's only within a range. Like this is out of focus. Right here is in focus, and anything behind me is out of focus. Hard to do. Not easy to get to happen on a webcam kind of situation. And that means our co-host is a little bit out of focus. But Jean, thank you so much for your support on the last streams. Lovely to receive that, and felt great. So thank you for that. We went into our warehouse of thousands of plants, all identical, and found the one named Jean, and we brought it out, and therefore Jean will be co-hosting. So if at any point you're nervous or have some questions about the meditation, just turn to our co-host, and they'll let you know how to be. Where else, folks? Where are folks rolling in from as we're beginning to get going here? Today I wanted to talk about a particular topic here, which is a particular topic which we'll be talking about afterwards, which is I've been looking at generally training videos on puppies, training in general. Probably going to be working with a trainer at some point, and oops, too far down. Okay, that's better. Looking at these training videos and watched one recently which made me realize how much our relationship with the parts of us that can be overwhelmed, it's not even a metaphor. Like it's like training a puppy. It's really the same exact tools. So I want to share some of those, how I've been using those to work with the various parts that have been coming up. As folks know, as part of the work that I've been doing for a long time around old trauma, this kind of thing in the body, I recently did a psychedelic journey, and part of that psychedelic journey meant coming in or clarifying various parts that feel more or less alienated or isolated or rejected, this kind of thing. So now that these parts are sort of much more active in my life, not that they weren't active before, but more consciously active, they're sort of figuring out, what are their roles. And so part of it is dismantling some of the overwhelm through how I cultivate a relationship with these various parts, how I create relationships between them. This is the nurture positive side of the deconstructive system that we tend to use. And lo and behold, basic puppy training skills are highly useful for navigating these different parts. So we're going to start meditating. So find a nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. And if folks have questions or things that they're interested in, let me know now in the chat, and we'll see if we can plug those into the meditation itself. I have a bit of an idea of what I want to do, but I'm highly suggestible. So if you have thoughts or ideas, let me know. Or if you have a question about your practice, what the hell's up with this thing or that thing? We never talk about that thing. And also, as questions arise, which they typically will, just make a note of that, because I was just talking with a brand new meditator recently, and I said, one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you is don't shelve your questions. I did that for years because I was learning from books and this kind of thing, and it slowed my practice down quite a bit. So whatever questions are arising, make sure to make a note of those as they arise. Okay, folks, so find that nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. And we will begin. Beginning by stretching up through the crown of the head, elongating the neck and spine. Letting the shoulders fall back, allowing the chest to open, letting the hands fall where they will. And then slowly relaxing each of the muscle groups which is holding the neck and spine long, which is pulling the shoulders back, just letting the body land in a kind of balance point where we don't need to use very much muscle power in order to keep the body balanced. allowing the eyes to close if we'd like to practice with the eyes closed, or if we'd prefer to practice with the eyes open, just letting them rest on a single point, allowing our gaze to defocus. Knowing that it's okay to practice with the eyes open if at any point we feel overwhelmed, or to pause the practice if need be. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. Taking a snapshot of the experience of the body. What are all of the body's experiences all together, just for this particular moment? Noticing that if we try to hold on to these, that they will just change. This is the nature of experiencing. The mind finds comfort in knowing an experience, but experiences resist being known by the fact that they change considerably. So allowing a snapshot of our body's overall experience, even holding on to that snapshot and noticing that it changes. Becoming aware of the movement of the breath everywhere that we can detect it in the body. So not just in one place, but all of the body's breath-related sensations, primary and secondary, tertiary, as one large group. There's a kind of softness to this large area of breath sensation. And if we find that softness is pulling us into dullness or sleepiness, adjusting this by attending to the fine detail of the sensations. The crispness. And then again, if we find that the mind is agitated or overly active, then moving in the opposite direction and attending to the softness. Finding a nice balance point where we can attend to the sensations continuously, if possible, without being overly agitated or overly foggy. And this is the game. Can we stay with these sensations continuously? How might we rearrange the mind or the body in a way that would facilitate this continuity, even if it's just for 3 seconds? Letting this skill build and develop in consistency over time. Just starting this simple game over and over. Knowing that if we under effort, we might not have the energy to stay with the process. And if we over effort, we may burn up a lot of energy, causing the mind to be fatigued. So how little effort can we apply to cultivate this balance where we can simply stay with the sensations of this moment. In this case, the sensations of the breath all throughout the body. Now making a slight transition. We're going to come into relation with a few of the parts, a few of the selves that we navigate the world through. We're going to begin by simply just saying hello to these various parts of ourself. So, beginning with the vulnerable part, the part that maybe feels unheard, the part that feels confused at times, lost. Perhaps that feels hurt or unheard. And rather than slipping into identifying with this part, we're simply going to say hello. 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 Bringing a bit of understanding. However this part arrived to where it is. Maybe it's strongly active or barely active or unnoticeable entirely. Just expressing some recognition and acceptance. Lately, I've liked the phrase, I see, I understand, I see, I understand. Naturalizing the existence of this part. Letting it know that we're okay with it just how it is. And whatever phrase we use, we'll get immediate feedback as to whether this phrase is working. If the phrase or sentiment soothes the self, great, keep using this. If it seems to create more resistance, letting your intuition find the phrase that would be useful. Repeating that phrase to create space for this more challenged self. In the same way we cultivated a balanced mind, using our intuition to find how can I create space for this more vulnerable self to feel safe. How can I meet this self in a way that will allow it to be soothed? Notice if the system gets drawn into distraction. And this may be an indication that this more vulnerable self uses distraction to soothe us. So not that we need to allow ourselves to slip into unconsciousness, but seeing this as part of the palette of what's needed. Maybe the softness of distraction. Maybe the playfulness and the exploration of distraction is what this self needs. Noticing if this more vulnerable self wants to be spoken to directly, or perhaps it simply wants us to be nearby, letting our phrase spill out like a mist in all directions, and some of that touches this more vulnerable self, so it feels a bit less directed or confronted. How can we hold all of our experiencing in a way that would support, nourish, allow this more vulnerable experience? How would this self feel if we arranged all of our experiencing, all of our awareness to be a kind of home. And staying with the practice, staying in stillness. If the eyes are closed, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes. Eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point. Still arranging our experience to comfort. This kind awareness. Interpreting and filtering the various experiences that enter into consciousness in a way that would support a kind of place of rest for this more vulnerable self. Just knowing that this moment, here with our eyes open, this is the great teacher. It shows us how we might cultivate an experience that allows us to let this part feel at ease all throughout our day. Okay, so making any adjustments you need to allow the body to be comfortable. So if any of you are familiar with my home, you know already that there's been long-term construction going on in this building, which is nowhere near being finished. And part of that construction is a new addition, which is apparently they're going on to this back roof. They were on this part of the building way over here, which was, 50, 70, 80 feet away on the other side of the building. And now they're actually starting to work on this side of the building, which is very close to us. In fact, from where I sit, it is 3 feet away from us. A solid, upwards, probably like 9 feet away from the ultra sensitive microphone. So we'll see how this unfolds over the course of several months. But right now, you might have heard some footsteps in the background. That's people beginning to walk on the new, the to-be replaced roof. The way my building works is that it's 7 floors of cement, old cement fortress-like building that was a factory, and then there's 2 stories that jut out that make, here we go, like this, that make a up to a 2nd floor. My apartment is this space here going all the way back, so I'm on the 2nd floor of both buildings, and part of my apartment sort of juts out past the main building. So we're actually, I'm trying to figure out how so we're cutting off a piece of this of the back of the building, 5 feet, moving the back of the building 5 feet back. This whole thing is going to be a glass wall, which will end up creating a patio for us. So we have 5 feet of space that can be a patio, and they're also refacing the entire facade of the building. So it's a lot happening at once. But so what was that meditation like? What was that like? What happened, and what are you like now? Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Beep boop boop beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop boop. Okay. Excellent. So folks, let me know in reports what that meditation was like. I'm going to put the link for the Zoom in here. I'm going to pop this open in case anyone wants to use their voices to manifest. No, this one. If you know the link, you can pop in now if you want to. Put that there, this there, that there. So many winders. And then this is the link. That is of interest. Okay, so folks, what was that meditation like? What happened? What are you like now? Beep, boop, boop. So I'm going to jump into our topic here as people begin to report. So this is just something that's just something I've been thinking about recently. So this video that I was watching, which I'll see if I can find the link for it. I really like these folks as far as training goes. They're called McCann Dogs. They're my favorite folks. And what I find is that, okay, let's go here. I'm going to find this video before we begin. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Now, a lot of people...
Oops, shush, shush, shush. Here we go, here's the video. I don't want to play it, I just want to copy the link. So, funny thing to use during a meditation live stream, but it's a dog training video. But listen, folks, if it works, you know what I'm saying? So this is the video I'm referring to. What I found was really interesting about this particular video was they talked about how if you're finding that with your puppy, and again, this is very direct correlation to our experience of these different parts, especially vulnerable parts or parts that get defensive or parts that feel agitated or sort of, any of the parts that struggle. They say about a puppy, says if you're finding that you're getting to a place, this is what I was having. I go outside and the dog is just yanking on the thing, and it's like basically if you're hitting like a red light scenario, where it's like it's just there's lots of problems and it's sort of hitting the wall and things are going wrong. It's an indication that as a trainer we didn't set up the scenario well enough or break down the parts simply enough so that the puppy could learn the material, so that when it gets into this more challenging situation it knew what to do. So with a puppy, for instance, we bring it outside, we start walking around, it's yanking on the leash, it doesn't know to stop barking, and I'm like very frustrated. I'm like, why is this dog barking? This is so confusing, why is this happening? And they're saying in this video, that's an indication that we haven't broken the pieces down clearly enough for the puppy to be able to navigate the world. And that it's up to us, it's our responsibility to keep an eye on that and have that be a central part of the way that we relate to, that we help the dog relate to the world. And this is significant for our internal landscape as well, because what happens is we are in situations where we get entirely overwhelmed or partially overwhelmed, this kind of thing. And and we're sort of like, what do I do? I feel so overwhelmed in this situation, or when this thing comes up, I get very frustrated with this person, or these kind of things. Very normal, especially in our climate today. It's very intense right now. And so part of the idea is that it's up to us to titrate, to introduce these pieces to our to these different selves carefully, gently, with the right amount of intensity. In the dog training seminar, or this dog training video that came up, what they talked about was there's sort of green light, yellow light, and red light scenarios. So green light scenarios are easy, no problem, taking a nap, watching a TV show, easy for this part of ourselves that is overwhelmed, not a problem. There's red light scenarios that are just totally overwhelming. This is, the Thanksgiving where we go back to the family and it's just intense and people are yelling and this various part, or, several parts get overwhelmed, this kind of thing. Okay, well, that's a red light scenario. So the premise is that it's up to us to keep that self, that part, in yellow light territory, green or yellow, right? So it's either chilled out, or if we're stressing it and giving it something more than it's used to, that we're only entering yellow light territory. And if we spill into red light territory, well, that's good news, actually. It shows us that we have something particular that we need to build, which is how to either indicate to that self that it needs to communicate, I need a little bit more, I need to back off earlier, or it indicates to us that we need to break down the pieces so that this piece of the self can navigate that material. So let's see, for me, what I find, the self that I was describing in today's meditation, it tends to be this sort of like, what's going on? I'm confused, I'm overwhelmed, reality's too hard to deal with. This is the self that sort of arises either in the background or sometimes in the foreground with, a lot of my life. It just comes up and is like, I can't do this. And that's fine. What happens is that self then sometimes will take over and just be like, this is the only reality, or it will, or that self will just push the whole system into overwhelm, right? This is a sort of a self that feels it needs to protect the whole system, doesn't know that there are other ways to protect the system, that there are other selves, that there's a, more resourced self, the kind awareness that could come in and support this material. It just feels like it has to do everything, and of course it can't, because it's an under-resourced self. Jean says here, I found the phrase that worked for me to tell the vulnerable part was, I hear you. I use that one as well. Lately I haven't felt like I'm being heard, or even worse, am not communicating clearly enough. Besides that, I have been reflecting on what you said recently about somatically held emotion. I often notice that if an uncomfortable emotion arises, that I feel it in a particular part of the body. Great. Well, that's great clarity, because part of what we need to do in order to, we're realizing we're dipping into red zone, red territory, is to know which part of us is dipping into red territory. It's not all of us. There's part of us that's physically relaxed, or there's part of us that is just neutral in the body. But part of us, this emotional sort of area, for me, I notice this particular vulnerable self that I've been describing tends to be experiences on this side of the neck, a little bit in the throat, and in the chest on this side. I also talked about this sort of angry, reactive self that feels like it's trying to protect, and that is actually, felt sort of on this side of the system over here. For me personally, it's going to be very different for everybody. And to notice which part of the body is physically activated, and what does it mean to create space for that self, to listen to that self and say, hey, what do you need at this time? Or even to talk to it and negotiate, hey, I'm stepping into this situation. I see that you feel a little overwhelmed, but would you mind stepping back for now? Would you mind not being so predominant right now, but I will return, and I'll come back and be helpful for you. What voice would be helpful for that self to be able to even hear that? Like, we can't be like, be quiet, blah, blah, blah. That's probably a more defensive self that would come at it from that perspective. But the less resource self needs to feel like the self that is speaking to it, that is relating to it, is kind. This is part of why we want to cultivate that kind, compassionate awareness, so that it knows it has an environment to interact with, which is not overwhelming, which is not damning or castigating or judging or any of these kind of things. So generally what we're going to want to do is get sensory clarity on what overwhelm feels like, when that arises, and how we can cultivate a kind of buffer zone. This is also what's related to what we call the window of tolerance. How do we develop a awareness of when we're exiting or coming close to exiting our window of tolerance? Because what happens is we begin to exit the window of tolerance, overwhelm starts to occur, and the mind also, in order to manage that, starts to go unconscious and doesn't remember. And the next thing we know, we're scolding someone we didn't mean to scold, or we were just shut down and I just need to take a nap, or this kind of thing, or these are sort of responses that are like more energetic or less energetic. There's sort of different ways that we can respond to any of these situations. And you see it when you watch these videos of people like freaking out on the street, or like, we see this all the time. This person's in a blackout. They do not know what's happening. And it's often, we get very, very angry, and I think rightfully so, because we need to hold people accountable, even if they're unaware of what they're doing. But you can see it. You can see that someone's sort of an ordinary person, and I don't want to call it specific videos because I feel like they're like particularly triggering. But I guess one that I would mention is the video that we saw, a month or more back, with a woman who was calling the police on the gentleman who was bird watching. She's lost. I mean, she doesn't. It does not seem like she's in control of her actions. Now, of course, we have to ask people to be responsible for their actions, regardless of whether they have control, and to develop that control. It's helpful for us to recognize that this is something that happens all the time. We get overwhelmed and we lose consciousness, in part because this vulnerable self, which is just part of us, will take over, and it will then run the entire show, and it only has this very small view. And while we ourselves might have a lot of years of wisdom and resources and this kind of thing, this self is often incredibly young, single digits in terms of age, sometimes low single digits, and it doesn't know how to navigate the world. It's like everything is black and white. I mean, it's the logic of a child. It's the logic of someone who's a toddler or a young child. And it's like everything's black and white. It's me against you. I need to have this thing right now, and nothing can stop me. Nothing can get in the way. And if I don't get the thing, then I'm just going to, it's the worst feeling in the world, and I'm going to have a tantrum and this kind of thing. So how do we create a space that's large enough to allow this self to be there? How do we know when we're reaching the edges of that particular self? How do we skillfully navigate out of that particular intense situation? These are all skills that we want to be cultivating as we're developing this path, because again, classical awakening will do all sorts of lovely things for our perception, but it does not necessarily heal or solve any of these particular parts that feel isolated or alienated or in the experience of harm. And there are plenty of, I think, convincing discussions that moving deeper into the path of awakening requires us to face quite a bit of this material. So that's what I wanted to discuss today, is that little piece. And if there are any other reports or questions, then I'm happy to address those. I always forget to say this because we want to be able to edit the videos so that people can watch them as one piece and not just part of the live stream. So if you're watching this, on playback, make sure to like this video and subscribe. And as always, it's lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I have to include that bit because if we edit it later, I need that little piece in there. So folks, I have something coming up soon, so I want to prepare for that. So I'm going to probably jump off the stream. But I do want to say thank you so much for joining. We're going to be back here. Here's a bit of an announcement. I want to make sure that folks hear this if you're here now. It is a possibility. Just a possibility, but it is a possibility that we may not have a stream on Monday, in part because Raquel and I might suddenly be able to take a break, which we haven't in a long time, and be able to step away from step away and take a little vacation. But it would be Sunday, Monday if that were the case. So there may not be a stream on Monday. If you want updates on when the stream will be, or if there's going to be a change in that, go to our Discord. Our Discord has all of our info and all of our discussion, this kind of thing. And it will, there's this place there for stream announcements, and we'll let you know if there's any change in the stream in any way. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, we're freezing left and right over here. So folks, I have a wish for you. And that wish is that intuitively or consciously, or both, you make a little space for any part of yourself that is in need of space. Cultivating a kind of home for any difficulty that might be arising. Knowing that this is natural. We don't want to reject any of these parts of ourself. And cultivating this relationship is not only skillful for ourselves, but skillful for those in our lives that we interact with casually, happenstantially, or deeply, closely. Folks, lovely to see you here. We'll be back here, we believe, in fewer than 72 hours, but we're not sure. Stay posted on Discord and we'll let you know. We look forward to seeing you very soon. Okay, folks, have a lovely weekend. Look forward to